All right, make sure I got my microphone on. Hey, good evening, guys. I am so glad that you guys are here this evening. And I noticed no one wanted to sit in the front row tonight, and I don't blame you. Um, so Randy's going to sit in the front row. Hey, so I remember after graduating from Greenville, Amy and I were asked if we would maybe help out with a church plant that was taking place down in Greenwood, Indiana. And Amy and I were just dating at the time, and we went down there and we helped. And I had graduated from Greenville, and so I had expenses, but it being a church plant and stuff, it didn't pay very much at all. And there was a couple at the church, kind of a younger couple, and they said, hey, listen, we have a basement. You're welcome to stay in our basement, and that we don't have to drive from the east side down to Greenwood, all that stuff. But the pastor's name that I was serving under, his name was Brian, and the last name was Booterball. Now, tell me if you think that he didn't catch some flack, with that name, growing up or whatever, but just the nicest guy in the world. But I remember one of the ladies, and you probably heard me say the name Iona Sewell before. Iona Sewell was, she was at Ritter Avenue the whole time that we were there. Just an amazing lady. I'm so grateful because I know that the Lord used her mightily to pour into my life, and just really indebted to her. She's just a wonderful lady. But one Sunday morning, she called me up on the phone, so it was like Sunday, maybe 7 o'clock in the morning, and she said, hey, Jeff, Pastor Brian is like really sick, and he thought he was good to go, but he's not going to be here, so you got the service. And I got to tell you, I had a panic attack, like was foaming at the mouth and everything, and tried to put together a message and stuff. That's not easy to do. And Friday, Amy had been sick, and she was coming out of it, and I was afraid I was getting into it, but like that river, denial goes a long way. And I suspected pretty good Friday night that I was in trouble, and then Saturday night, I was just an absolute mess. I don't know, I don't know how much water and stuff, you drink in the course of a day, a couple of liters, 2 or 3 liters. I am sure I had at least 4 or 5 gallons of stuff come out of my face Friday night and Saturday. So, Saturday night anyway. But Amy came in, I'm like, Amy, I am an absolute train wreck of a mess. I don't think there's any way I could get out of this bed, let alone go to church. And she said, okay, I got it. And she left, and I didn't know. I don't think I woke up until, 1 o'clock Sunday, and then she came in and told me what was going on. Randy, thank you so much. And I watched the video, and isn't Ashley just lovely, amazing, talented? Isn't that just really cool what the Lord's been doing there? And the fact that she would just step into that and do that, I was blown away. So I called her and I told her I thought she was A+. I want to share with you, I was told that I should do this, so I am heeding the advice of my good friends. Let me share with you again for 2 minutes what I really hope, will continue to happen even more and more and more on Wednesday nights. What is Wednesday night? What is dinner church? What's the goal for dinner church? All of that sort of stuff. And let me just try to unpack it quickly this way. Today, this particular day of the week, has an interesting nickname. Do you remember what it's called? Hump Day, And the thought is by the middle of the week we're tired. We've we've done the Monday and Tuesday, and we're just trying to hang on, for Friday's coming, and it's in the middle of the week. And Amy and I thought a long time ago it would be really awesome if we could offer people on Hump Day, where they could come in and sit down and have a nice meal, and make it as close to like a restaurant, kind of like quality and stuff. In my mind, I kind of envisioned it, a little bit more like tablecloths and whatever. And Amy's like, what do you mean we're using the dishes? We're using foam plates. No, honey. No, we can't do that. I would love to go and take their orders and bring the food out to the table and then pick them up. And it's a time for you guys to come in and have incredible fellowship with one another around these tables for a good 30, 40 minutes, and just be able to talk and interact and get to know each other, better. And I know that, and I'm going to cough a couple times, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this off, and I will turn this way. And I appreciate your patience with me. My hope, honestly, is that you will not tend to sit with the same people, because we do that. We gravitate to the same people. I dare guess that many of you guys don't know the Darkos, these two wonderful people right here. And I think I told you to sit at y'all's table, and I said, hey, get to know them, and you guys get to know each other and stuff like that. I hope that will happen more and more and more. Some of you probably know Ken, but you may not know his lovely wife, Deb. And if you are able to, and I'm not saying, hey, you got to do this, pastor's watching, but get to know the others in the group. Now, we don't have a huge group tonight. It's not a bad group, We got a lot of kids and youth downstairs, which is awesome. But just kind of, this is a good way to kind of get to know other people. And yes, the desire and the goal is for you guys to have fellowship, for you guys to get a really good, healthy meal. And none of this garbage, fast food stuff or whatever else, but something that's got some good health to it. And you can walk away satisfied. And I love that word. I love it, satisfied. And then afterwards, and the 5-minute timer comes on, and I keep thinking maybe the 5-minute timer is going to end up being 3 minutes at some point in time, but we'll see. But at that point, we come forward and we sit down, and the hope and the goal and the desire is that we're going to get fed again. But instead of getting fed physically, we're going to get fed spiritually, okay? I mean, that really, really is my hope and my desire. And, it's interesting because when we started doing this with the Wednesday nights, my desire, my thought was, okay, Sunday morning, we're probably going to have visitors on a Sunday morning. So we're going to make Sunday morning, let's see here, if I'm at home plate, first base is there, second base, third base, and then home plate. And I'm thinking on a Sunday morning, we'll have visitors. They may or may not know about Christ. They may or may not really be a Christian yet. And so we're going to make that kind of a first base, kind of a level, not too deep and, whatever. And then I thought, but Wednesday night, Wednesday night's going to be that we're going to really get deep into God's Word and try to do discipleship and stuff. And so we kind of thought that would be second base, maybe even a little bit towards third base, sort of a thing. And what's I think is so interesting is, crying out loud, you guys come out of the woodwork for this. And I've talked with several of you, and the thing that I heard is, Jeff, don't change it. We want meat and potatoes. We don't need milk. Bring the meat and the potatoes. If we don't understand it, we'll call you or send you an email or something like that, and you can help us understand those things. Yeehaw with the kiddies downstairs. Everyone's looking, was that my kid? Whose kid was that? Oh boy. All good stuff. They're in good hands down there. So thank you for this. I will go as far even as to say this. I really do, when I think of the overarching ministry that we have at Open Door Church, guys, I really do kind of think like this is probably the most successful thing, Wednesday nights. Our desire is to learn, to get healthy, to become equipped so that we can be successful and do well, so that when it is all said and done, and we go before the Lord, he'll look at us and he'll say, wow, well done, you did good, well done, good faithful servant. That's it. That's what we're wanting to accomplish, reminding us of the big picture, the most important things, teaching, equipping, all of this stuff. Now, I want to say one other thing. There's this pretty little thing, wait and follow the king down in the jungle room. No, but Layla down here, some of you guys are like, what was he singing? It doesn't matter. Layla, what grade are you even in right now? Fifth grade. And yet she wants to, and her daddy showed me a picture of her because she was in The Wizard of Oz this weekend. And Amy and I were going to go on Friday, but then you remember what happened on Friday? We got dumped on with snow, and I wasn't feeling really good. And I'm thinking, I don't even know if they're going to still have it. They did still have it, didn't they? And I'm thinking, all right, you know what? Let's just shoot for Sunday afternoon, because it was a Sunday afternoon matinee, or whatever else. Anyway, and we didn't get to make any of them. But there are pictures, and her dad showed me a picture, and little Layla, who's in what grade again? Fifth grade. That just is so not right. Like, that doesn't equate, when you look at her, fifth grader, okay, how about sophomore, or whatever. And her daddy showed me the picture, and she's got a little bit of lipstick on, and her hair, and I'm just like, dude, you are so in trouble. And he's like, I am so in trouble, and stuff like that. Thanks. I'm so glad that you're upstairs. I'm so glad that you're interested and that you come, and God bless you. I just think the world of you. Let me share with you real quickly a couple of prayer requests. I got a text message from Tony. Tony, if you're listening, I don't know if my phone messed up, but I got a thing saying that there was an emergency, but I didn't know what it was. But then I asked Randy, and Randy said that Tony told Randy, which daughter was it? Yeah, Amanda. Had some tests, and they weren't really sure about the tests, kind of like, what does that really mean? And so they're together tonight. So I want you to pray for Amanda, okay? Amanda. You'll do well if you say it out loud. So let's just say it out loud. Are you ready? Amanda. Okay? It begins with an A. It's at the beginning of the alphabet. You can remember this, okay? Amanda. She's married. She has a man. Amanda. She's got a man. She's a lovely lady, whatever. But remember her. Remember her in prayer, if you would. Louise Hoff. Just it's so frustrating. She didn't listen to her daughters. Shame on you, Louise. And she had a rug, and she tripped and fell on a rug, and so she took a little bit of a spill. I guess this is like the third one. So anyway, her daughter came and stole all of the rugs. So there are no rugs in the house. Louise, you got a good daughter. She had, what's the eye surgery called? Had a cataract surgery on one, and she's going to go back, make sure that the cataract's still in place, and I'm sure all is well. And she'll have the other one on the other eye done soon. Nancy, same thing, just had both of hers done, and she's waiting for things just to dial in and get to that sweet spot. And I think you're meeting tomorrow, aren't you, with your eye doctor or sometime soon? Yeah. So just pray for those as well. Danny Clark, you probably saw that he tore his hand up and had to have surgery, and he's doing really well. But I don't know if I'd mentioned that. Rebecca, do either you or your husband want to say anything about your surgery and stuff? I know it was an ordeal, and I know that recovery was a little bit elongated. But we'll just say that Rebecca now does not have a gallbladder and or gallstones. So that's been taken care of for her, and she doesn't like anesthetic. So, but she's doing really well. Guys, I'm so happy to tell you that Carl doesn't have to wait until April or May to have his knee surgery. He's going to have it on the 6th of March, and he'll get that done. Take a week to heal up, a week or so of physical therapy. By the way, look, see, I can touch my pinky. Isn't that cool? That's after 3 sessions of physical therapy, and she's a rock star. She made me scream today. I literally screamed. She freaked out. I freaked out. Everybody was freaking out. Do you guys know who Eva Cooney is? I hope you do. If you don't know who Eva is, then you need to get to know her. Just seek her out. Hey, who's this Eva gal on Sunday or whatever? Pray for her. Her brother is going to soon pass away. His kidneys are failing, and there's just really nothing that they can do there. And then Brett Foster told me a couple of days ago that he's got to go in and have some more oral surgery, and it's not going to be fun, and that sort of thing. So I'm not going to make you cringe by describing some of the things I think that he's going to have happen. Just be grateful that it's not happening to you. Okay? So, guys, those things in mind. And I kept this up here for a reason, and this is awesome. Just a couple of reminders. Sarah Benning has a family friend who has liver cancer. His name's Bill. And pray for Ashley, her sister. She has a sister that lives, I think it's South Carolina, if I recall, and just kind of in a hard situation, and the Lord knows. And it would be awesome to just hear an awesome praise to that, okay? I'm just going to bow my head, and I'm just going to pray over these. I'm just going to invite you to pray with me, and then we're going to jump into the Bible study. Gracious Father, I do thank you, Lord, that you help us each and every day. You tell us that in this world we will have trials and struggles and not the best kinds of days, and you told us this in advance, and sure enough, that's the case. And but we look to you, and we also know that your word says that even in the difficult things of life, you use those things to bring about your good and perfect will in our lives. And we know, Lord, that sin just has this horrible effect of making people's lives miserable, and you want better things for us. And I'm grateful, Lord, that you work through all things. And it is rather interesting, Father. I think we would all certainly agree that when we find ourselves in difficult places, we certainly tend to turn to you more than when things seem to be going perfectly well. And so for that reason alone, as Paul said, we will thank you for our trials and the difficult times, because it draws us closer to you. We do love you, and we just give all of these names, these different ones, over to you. We pray your blessings upon them, and we'll certainly give you praise and glory, Lord, as we see you moving in each of these needs as well. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so I don't have slides. I was going to, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to do the slides. Sometimes the slides are distracting. Um, I remember professors, sometimes they would use slides, they would use overheads and different things. And I remember when we started having screens in church, and I was trying to decide whether it was beneficial to me or a distraction to me. I'm ADD enough that, imagine that, it's probably going to be a distraction. And I just want to speak to you. I'm going to start from my manuscript. I'm going to speak very candidly tonight with you guys. And I suspect and I believe that the Lord is going to do what he plans to do and what he intends to do, and that it's all going to be a wonderful thing. Does that sound good to you guys? Good. Because I want to paint a picture for you. I remember when I used to think, well, I'm kind of the young guy, and I'm not the young guy anymore. But whether you are in your 20s, 30s, 40s, or 50s, or even in a later stage of life than that, I want you to just kind of picture in your mind and imagine that everything is going along smoothly. Everything is as routine as it has ever felt. It's just as normal as can be. Normal sounds pretty good sometimes, doesn't it, right? You guys were far from having normal, and behind you, you guys were far from having normal. So sometimes we go whoop, whoop, yay for normal. So just imagine things just as routine and as normal as can be. You're making plans, for the weekend and maybe a short getaway, maybe over spring break. You're excited that soon, not just spring, but summer's going to be coming. You're even thinking about what project you might want to begin to do around the house. All of these things you're thinking about. You are enjoying the outlook of things, right? But then, after a scheduled, routine, yearly meeting with your doctor so that you could have your annual physical, and, when you're old like me, you don't just get a physical, you get to have blood work done. And when the blood work comes back, you learn that something is wrong. Something terribly, terribly, horribly wrong. I've got a neighbor. He lives 2 houses to the east of me. He's a great guy, and he's a young guy, and he's got 2 little boys, and his 2 little boys are just a trip. And I've really enjoyed watching them running around, outside and everything else. And they're at that point where they're probably going to start getting into a lot of mischief, and I can't wait to watch and see, how that goes. But this neighbor, the boy's dad, one day he sees me outside, and he calls me over and he says, "Hey, Jeff, listen, I really need you to pray for something for me." And this is awesome that he would say that, because I've invited him to church 1,000 times. 1,000 times. And I think he has, a good bit of respect for me. And so for him to call me over and to say, "Hey, I want you to pray for something," really just meant the world to me. He says, "I've got a nephew, and he's only like 8 years old, and he was absolutely fine, and I had to go to the doctor one day, and now they're telling us that he has leukemia, and he's in for the fight of his life." And that's horrible stuff, right? I mean, that's just horrible stuff. Now, mind you, it's been a year, and he's doing well, and he's still in that fight and everything, and I think he's going to be fine. But, guys, can you imagine going through life thinking that everything is just perfectly, swimmingly well, and then finding out that it is not anything perfectly, wonderfully, swimmingly well? Now, you can think that physically. Everything's going wonderfully well. God has a sense of humor. He doesn't make it so that you get up one morning and you go and you look in the mirror and suddenly, you're bald and all the hair's gone and whatever else. You lose it kind of gradually, and stuff. So, yeah, thank you, Lord. I do appreciate that as well. But, it's one thing to think that everything physically is wonderful, and then learning that it's not. That's bad. But imagine if that happened spiritually. And I really do mean that. You think that everything is well. You think things are fine. And, things aren't perfect, but who's perfect, right? And you're just kind of going through the things, and you're thinking everything is, normal, routine, going really, really well until you discover that they're not. I think it's interesting that people think that pastors, and guys, listen to me. Deb, I want you to chime in when you feel like chiming in, okay? All right, I mean that. You don't even have to raise your hand, okay? My dad likes to chime in, and he's not here, and that's okay. But not just you as well. Randy, you, all of you guys, chime in. You don't even have to raise your hand. If I go like this and I'm trying to finish my thought because I'm like so ADD or whatever else, and then because I'm so ADD, I just kind of move on and I forget about you, stand up and say, Pastor, you're ignoring me. Stop it, or something like that. I mean that. I want you to do that. People have this false ideology that pastors are like the really good and righteous and holy people in the world. I've known a lot of pastors. They're not. Pastors are just like everybody else, fallen, broken, in need of God's grace and mercy, hopefully humble, hopefully, sensitive to the moving of the Holy Spirit, and whatever good that you see within a pastor's life has nothing to do with them, but solely because of the love and the grace and the mercy of Jesus Christ. Can I have an amen to that? And I mean that. I don't know if I have said anything more truthful in a long time than that right there. Whatever good stuff, and some of you, whatever, have been brainwashed or whatever into thinking, oh, Pastor Jeff is just so absolutely wonderful. Oh, we had surgery and he came and watched our 3 little kids and watched them, push each other down the slide at Chick-fil-A, which was so awesome. I mean, it was like, dude, I'm having like the greatest evening like ever, and you all think, oh, Pastor Jeff is so amazing. No, Pastor Jeff's a schmuck. But all of that, to the side, whatever legitimate good things are there, are there because of Christ, and not because I sit there and I decided, well, I'm just going to better myself. Randy, you've known me long enough to know, and you have seen me work through enough struggles in my life to sit there and know that, Jeff can't do squat. I mean, he just can't do diddly. He can sit there and push and want and desire for this and that and everything else. And I have been stupid enough to sit there and chase after, dumb, meaningless, senseless things, for a long time. By the grace of God. By the grace of God. And so you have to know this, and you have to understand this. But I will say this. I'll say in regards to pastors, most pastors that I do know have been broken and have come to a place where they realize that they are an absolute train wreck of a mess, and that if they aren't daily committed and dependent upon the Lord, that they're probably more susceptible, probably even more susceptible than the average person, the average Christian that's out there. And yet, guys, I say to you, how many pastors can we name tonight? And we're not going to name them. But how many? I mean, okay, we'll start with one. I'll throw the name Baker out there. And we can sit there and we can come up with 10 more easily. And not just pastors. Unfortunately, especially with the way that social media is and, YouTube and videos and stuff, I mean, there are documentaries out there of churches that have, and here's my question. Were these people wolves in sheep's clothing and they just got caught out? Do you understand my question? Do you think that these pastors, now I don't know, and I threw out a name a moment ago, and when I think of them, maybe I wonder, but there are some other pastors out there that appeared to have been used mightily to do unbelievably powerful, awesome things for years and even decades. And yet, we associate their name today with a scandal, a torrid affair, or embezzlement, or I don't know. I don't know what. My question, again, Ken, is were these people, and we'll even say churches, were these wolves in sheep's clothing, or did something happen along the way? Yeah. Yeah. So let me so I can recap those watching online. You're saying that you don't think that they're wolves in sheep's clothing, that they started off well, doing well. You, Deb, said the word pride. Something happened. Things kind of got in there, and the next thing you know, there's kind of like a crumbling away. Is that what you're describing? Do you think that when these sorts of things happen with people, whether it's a pastor or a Sunday school teacher or a youth pastor or somebody who works in the cafe in church or helps with the cleaning or mows the grass or is just a Christian, just a Christian, going through life. Do you think that they often recognize when there's this like a little bit of a deterioration of the foundation and stuff to the point where they crash and burn? Don't answer out loud, but do you think that they even recognize it? Do you think it's subtle, or do you think that they realize that, I'm kind of messing up here, and I should be careful, and warning and red flags and stuff like that? Or do you think that it's more subtle than that? Don't answer. I appreciate the fact that you want to answer, but I'd rather you not answer. Let me tell you a story. There were two men in a certain town. One man was really, really rich, and the other was really, really poor. The rich man, he had everything he could ever want. He had a large number of sheep, a large number of cattle, servants, an incredible place to live, all kinds of stuff. But the poor man, this guy had nothing, practically hardly anything. One thing he did have was a little bitty what? A Yule lamb. A Yule lamb that he had bought. He raised it. It grew up with him. It was like a child to him. It shared his food. It drank from his cup. It even slept in his arms at night. It was like a daughter to him, this little bitty lamb. Now, a traveler came, and he showed up at the rich man's house. And the custom was, hey, when you have a traveler, especially when they've been coming a long way, and they didn't have buses and trains and planes and automobiles and Steve Martin, I don't know, it's coming in my head. Some of you, never mind, ADD. A traveler came to the rich man, and the rich man refrained from taking one of his own sheep or cattle to prepare a meal for this traveler who had come to him. Instead, this rich man took the Yule lamb that belonged to this poor guy, and he killed it, and he prepared it, and gave it to the one who came to him. Upon hearing of this, who burned with anger? King David burned with anger inside of him. King David just burned with anger against this man. And he said, and don't let this escape you, he said, as surely as the Lord lives, the man who did this must what? Die. Now, he really just signed his own death sentence. The man who did this, it doesn't say deserves to die. He said the man who did this must die. And then, I don't know if he changed his mind a little bit or what, but in verse 6, it says, he must pay for the lamb 4 times over because he did such a thing and had no pity. And then Nathan turned it to David. He looked him square in the eye and he said, David, you are the man. And I hope that you know this story, and if you don't, you should just study it. Because one night while the army, the soldiers of Israel were out fighting in a distant battle, King David got up from his bed and he went out onto his palace courtyard thing or whatever, and he's walking around and he notices this woman in the far off distance. He recognizes that she's lovely to the eye, beautiful and everything else, and he's the king, and he's like, you know what, send her to me. So he has an official, goes and gets her, and even though she was married, in fact, she was alone because her husband was off fighting in the war that he probably should have been fighting, and he goes and he sleeps with her, and she becomes pregnant. And then she says, we have a problem, I'm pregnant. And my husband's been gone for months, and this is going to be a scandal. Well, let's send for him and have him come home, and then he can have relations with you, and then, you can tell him at some point later, hey, I'm pregnant. Wow, isn't this wonderful and stuff? And the guy comes home, and he goes, I can't go home and be with my wife. How could I do such a thing? All of my fellow soldiers are out fighting in the battle. How could I go and sleep in a wonderful bed and enjoy the company of my wife? I won't do that. So he sleeps in a tent. And finally, King David, he's like, oh my, this is what a pickle that I'm in. And so he tells his commander, hey, listen, I'm sending Bathsheba's husband back to the war. I need you to put him in the front line of the war. And then when the battle gets really, really tough, I need you guys to all just kind of, do a little retreat to the point where, his life is taken by the enemy. And so that happens. And then not so terribly further down the road, Nathan walks into the king's palace, and he tells him this story, and he says, David, you are the man. Took the ewe lamb, and you're the man. And guys, do you think, tell me a little bit about David. Was David a good guy? Of all the kings of Israel, tell me, was David one of the best kings? I think maybe with the exception of Josiah. Maybe Josiah. And there were a couple of others as well that were just magnificent kings of Israel. But David was a man who loved the Lord. And yet, how could this happen? Do you want to know how this can happen? Very subtly. Do you believe that these sorts of things can happen to us? I really have struggled, and I have to tell you, you guys know the verse because I mentioned the verses at least once every 3 weeks. Randy, help me with time, okay? One of the verses that I've always struggled with is, it's Judgment Day. You have people standing here and all over the place. And Jesus is there, and he's dividing the people up like you would divide, sheep and goats and whatever else. And he turns to a group of the people and he says, away from me, you evildoers. And they're like, what do you mean, away from you? We've been your faithful followers. We've served you. We were in church probably, crying out loud. How many weeks are in a year, Randy? 52? Is that still the case? 52 weeks out of the year, and we were there easily 45. Wow, that's pretty good. 45 weeks out of the year. I mean, those are some good stars, right? You get a lot of stars, And not only that, but we went on missions trips. We went to this place. We dug a well. We helped them. We got them fresh water. There was the one guy. Remember, he was even demon possessed. I mean, I'm quoting the Bible, slight paraphrase. But this guy was like demon possessed, and we laid hands on him, and we pronounced the demon to be gone in Jesus' name, and he was healed, and he was cured. We did all of these things. Lord, we did all of these things. What do you mean? Why are you dismissing us from your presence? And Jesus' response to them is, I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoers. I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoers. He says to him two things. The first thing is what? What did he say? He said, I never what? I never knew you. And then what's the second thing that he said? Away from me, what? Evildoers. Away from me, you evildoers. So how does somebody who once is doing really, really well get to a place where they're not doing so well? I'm telling you, I think it's very, very subtle. Guys, let me ask you a question, because this is what I'm really struggling with. And I do have to tell you, and I'm sorry maybe that on Super Bowl Sunday night, I left at halftime, and I went home because I was kind of stressed out because I knew I had a whole bunch to do, and all of the homemade pizzas that I made on my stone wood fire pizza oven, all the pizza was gone, so I was ready to go home. No, but I had like a whole thing. I was kind of stressed out. And Monday, and we're doing a building out here and all kinds of stuff. One of the things that was on my list was I have an Audible account through Amazon. Y'all know what Audible is? You can buy books and listen to books and all that sort of stuff. And I had suspended it for a while, but you can only suspend it for so long. And I needed to use some of my credits, because even though I paid for them, if I don't use my credits, I lose them. So I went back through a bunch of my notes to try to find some of the books that I had heard people talk about that I wanted to buy, and I bought 3 books that night. The next morning, Monday morning, I open it up and I start reading a book that I got to tell you, when I first started reading it, I was kind of like, wow, this is like one of the most awesome books probably that I will have read in a decade. And then I kept reading it Monday night, and I'm like, wow, this book is absolutely horrible. Same book. This book is absolutely horrible. This is the problem with the church in America today, this particular book. And then I kept reading Tuesday night, Wednesday night, and I'm going through this, and I'm to the point I told Amy, I said, Amy, you have to buy a copy of this book, and I need you to read this book with me, because I am so conflicted by this book, and I just need somebody to talk to about this book, and you'll hear me, I'll talk about this, but it's talking about these things. It's talking about these things. And guys, the question I have for you that I really want to ask you is, can you do something good? Can you be doing something good and turn it into something bad? Something good. If your heart changes, your motives change. So I'm going to read to you in a few minutes, and I'm running out of time. I hate time. In heaven, there'll be no time. There'll be no clocks. But I want to read you something. So we have a superintendent. What was our superintendent's name? Yeah, John Lane. Sorry, John. He's not our superintendent anymore, so I'm not sorry, John. No, I'm just kidding. So he's up in Spring Arbor. He's up in Spring Arbor, Michigan now. He's at a big old awesome mega church, and I saw some photos on Facebook, and wow, they've done up that church. That church looks magnificent now. Yeah, but anyway, so we have an interim they call it an interim superintendent. His name's Herb Coates. I really love Herb. I've always heard amazing things. He has a brother. It is his brother. That's Jerry, right, who oversees the missions at the World Ministry Center and stuff. But anyway, about once a week, the superintendent, whoever, and this time it was Herb Coates, would send out an email to all of the pastors. And I got one on Thursday. And this is after I've been reading this book and fighting and struggling with this book like crazy, right? Can I read it to you? And then I want to jump around some more. Let me share with you a couple of other things. Where is this at? Oh, here it is. So we have this thing called like Kingdom Prayer thing. It's like every other Wednesday at such and such time in the morning, and there's a Bible reference, but I don't remember. It all escapes me. I'm ADD. But he says this. He sends the email, and he says, hey, one of the biggest challenges that I faced in the 50-plus years of being a pastor was allowing the affections of my heart to shift. Okay, I'm going to back up because I'm not doing this right. No, I'm doing right. Okay, so my bad. Let me start over. Herb says, he's writing to the pastors, one of the biggest challenges that I have faced while pastoring over the past whatever years has been allowing the affections of my heart to shift from loving Jesus to loving the work to which Jesus has called me. Come on, Pastor. You're going to call that he's doing ministry. You're saying that's bad? Seriously? One of the biggest challenges that I faced while pastoring was allowing the affections of my heart to shift from loving Jesus to loving the work to which Jesus called me. Jerry Wright-Bull wrote in his book, Pastor, Jesus is enough. Hope for the weary, the burdened, the burned out, and the broken. This is what he says. We can move from being passionately devoted to and in love with Jesus to being passionately devoted to and in love with our ministries. The subtle shift that takes place is a shift not of affections, but in the object of our affection. We don't abandon our first love overnight. Oh, ouch. Okay, so abandoning our first love, that sounds familiar. What's that from? Oh yeah, Revelation chapter 2, the church in Ephesus, which we've been talking about. And I'm reading this and I'm like, oh, what are you doing, Lord? You're like really freaking me out now, okay? Right? He says we don't abandon our first love overnight or in the spur of the moment. The loss of our first love is a gradual and sometimes imperceptible decline of our affections away from one thing and an increase of our affections for another. It's putting the spotlight on something good. Everyone say the word good. It's putting the spotlight on something good while taking it off of something better. This brings to mind the familiar passage of John's Gospel where Jesus restores Peter, who had denied Jesus 3 times. 3 times Jesus asked Peter, do you love what? Me. He says, Peter, do you love me? Do you love me? Peter, what is it that you love? Because something has happened. And it's not me anymore. I'm not saying that you don't love. But what is it that you really, really love? Whether
whether one's ministry is pastoring a church or teaching a Sunday school class. This is Herb Coates. Whether one's ministry is pastoring a church or teaching a Sunday school class or leading a small group or working the church nursery or taking meals to a shut-ins or calling on the sick or sending them notes of encouragement or serving the poor in your community or serving as an interim superintendent or helping the pastor keep his brains while building a new building or whatever other things, that we do as Christians here at Open Door Church, all authentic Christian ministry begins and ends with love for Jesus Christ. Not those ministries, but Jesus Christ. In a book, A Conversation with Jesus, Stephen Seamands, he's an awesome guy. He's a Free Methodist guy. He's at Asbury, and he's written a great number of books. Stephen Seamands reminds us, in many ways, ministry is like a marriage. Why do two people get married in the first place? Well, they love each other, and they want to spend the rest of their lives sharing their love. And in their marriage, if it is to be successful, it is absolutely essential that they nurture and sustain their love for each other. Many other things like children and work and home pipes breaking and relatives and they merge out of the love that you have for one to the other and make demands on their time, their energy and resources. And if they are not careful, this husband and this wife, if they're not careful, they can become so consumed with the care and the maintenance of the things that came out of their love relationship that they neglected the love relationship itself. I can go on and on and on and on, but I want to do this, and I know it's like 8 till. Yeah, I got 9 minutes, and I'm going to take 9 minutes. Guys, one of the really profound passages, my dad will like this if he's, because I'm going to eat some crow myself here right now. One of the passages that I find really interesting, and there are some really interesting passages in the Bible, right, is this passage about Mary and Martha. Okay, do you remember the passage about Mary and Martha? Okay, Pastor, which one? Was it Lazarus? No, it was when Jesus and the disciples show up for the first time at Mary and Martha's house. Lord bless the person and help the person that has to wear this after me. We'll Lysol the daylights out of it. So Jesus and disciples show up at Mary and Martha's house. You have Mary and you have Martha. Both of them have an agenda. Both of them have two different things going on. Let's talk with Martha. What was Martha doing when Jesus and the disciples show up at their house? Who can tell me? Go ahead. Yeah, Martha. Martha was like, oh my lands, Jesus is coming and disciples. We have to make an apple pie. We have to make chicken and dumplings and stuff. No, wait a minute, is that kosher? We have to, whatever, all of these different kinds of things. We have to make things absolutely perfect and stuff. And Jesus is there and the disciples are there and she's in the kitchen just going absolutely out of her mind. Oh my lands, we got to make sure that everything is perfect. This is the Messiah. We've been hearing about this and everything else. And, Lazarus, he's like, man, I've been hearing stuff and like, yeah, me too. And all this stuff. And she's going berserk. Martha's going berserk in the kitchen. She's foaming at the mouth because she's like, dude, I have to serve the risen, or no, he hasn't risen yet, but I have to serve the king, and the king has come. This is the Christ. This is the Messiah, and I've got to serve him. Is Martha doing something good or bad? Somebody help me. Y'all should be saying good. She's wanting to serve the Messiah. This is a good thing. Now, is it the best thing? So you have the sister, and you have Mary, and what's Mary doing? Man, she's doing absolutely nothing. She's sitting on her keister, and she's sitting at Jesus' feet, and then everything else, and not doing anything. Now, does this seem applicable to you? Because I am so there. David Woods, you have known me for over 15 years. You tell me, which one am I? You tell me, which one am I? You better believe it. I am doing I am busting. I am whatever. It's got to look perfect. He's coming, and it's got to be perfect, right? You know it. Is he right or is he wrong? Yeah, I think all of you know this. So I would sit there and I would say, and I preached from this message. You can go back and you can find it. It's in the archives somewhere. Okay, well, you know what? Here's the thing. Mary was right, but Mary was right. Why? Why? Why was Mary right for sitting at Jesus' feet? Why? Anybody? You gotta say it really loud. I'm trifle deaf. Yeah, she's listening and stuff. Here's the thing. The Christ was only going to be there for so long. He's going to die upon the cross. He's going to ascend up in heaven. And the thing of it is, you know, she should be sitting and learning at Jesus' feet. And then after Jesus ascends up in heaven, then it's time to go to work. Can I have an amen from the church? Wrong. A heresy. Wrong. Flat out. Screwed up. Messed up. Flag on the play. You're fired, pastor. I don't buy that. I don't buy that. I don't buy that anymore. I used to buy that all day, twice on Sundays. I don't buy that anymore. Mary was right. Because I'm going to tell you, when Jesus is there and you're spending as much time seeking Jesus and at Jesus' feet as the time that you're out doing things, then you know you're not going to mess up. You're not going to mess up. But if you're out there just doing, thinking, well, I'm going to do this, and oh, look what I'm doing, and look what I've done, and look what I've accomplished, I'm going to tell you, man, that's going to get corrupted. That is going to get corrupted. That is going to get corrupted. There's only going to be a point in time where you're going to sit there and think that you have something to do with this. And I am telling you, that is so messed up. Because I'm going to tell you, honestly, truly, guys, tell me how that is not original sin. Tell me, hey, you know what? I don't need God. I can be God. I can be God. And look what I'm doing. See, I'm accomplishing this. I'm God. Look. Hey, look at how much that church has grown. Man, all these other pastors are going to be like, Pastor Jeff, wow, we need to elect him. He should be superintendent. I can't even think of Latin words. But anyway, he should be like, whoop, whoop, you know, because, oh, look at how much he's got it together. Guys, I am telling you, man, there's something there. And guys, I said it, and I'm glad, because somebody said, oh yeah, I buy that. Earlier when I sit there and I said that I do think that Christians are more susceptible. I think Christians are more susceptible. Especially Christians when they're in a place where they have influence and the Lord is wanting to use them and stuff. And they go and they begin to kind of look and try to answer that call and that sort of thing. And on my lands, we get susceptible. And that was a different one, different time. But yeah. And you know what, guys, all I know is I don't need any help being a screw up. I'm a big enough screw up as I am, you know, as it is already and stuff. And the thing is, you know, we can sit there and I love that verse, you know, if a person doesn't sin or whatever, they've got their act together and no, this is a horrible paraphrase. They got their act together and they don't mess up in any way, shape, or form. Okay, that's a horrible paraphrase. You know, the Bible sits there and says that, and I'm sitting there and thinking, you know what, all I know is it seems like the moment when the Lord helps me to understand or to work in a fallen, broken area of my life, and I feel like maybe there's been some bit of advancement in that area, not because of anything that I've done, but just because of him. He continually shows me the next thing. And then the thing after that. And then the thing after that. and the thing after that. And then the question isn't, oh, my lands, are you ever going to stop being a screw up? No. The question is very, very simply this. Are you going to choose to be obedient with me in this area as well? And then, are you going to choose to be obedient to me in this area as well? And then in this area as well? And then in this area as well? That's what I think it comes down to. Now, let me look. I thought I was going to say one last thing here, maybe like at the very end, but my pages fell, and they're like all over the place. And that's probably the Lord saying, Jeff, let them go home. Yeah. One of the other passages that screw with me something fierce is this passage where it says, they tie up heavy burdens and they put them on people's shoulders, and they themselves aren't even willing to lift a finger in those things. You know what I'm talking about? You know that passage? It scares the daylights out of me. And the last thing in the world I ever really want to do is start putting horrible burdens and things on you and whatever else. Guys, all I know, and the thing that I just keep coming back down to is this mentality of willingness. Yeah, Lord, you can have this. You can have this area too. Yeah, you got this. You've shown me something here, and it's quite stinking, horribly filthy and ugly. And I don't even want to really look into it to see just how horrible it really is. But you've brought this to my attention, and yeah, Lord, go ahead, please. Put your hand on it. Take the ember and the tongs and put it to my lips and make me whole in that area. You've got it. I give it over to you. I'm not going to hold back on this either. Do you hear what I'm saying? All right. Am I a big old hot lathered up mess? I'm going to go home and take some NyQuil. So, and the kids are here. Oh, look what they've fun. My heart, something mommy. So they belongs to mommy. Is that what that shirt says? All right. Guys, those of you watching online, thanks for watching. And I hope I didn't exasperate you too much. And guys, thanks for coming tonight and being with us. I appreciate you guys. Yeah, Lord bless you all. Have an awesome night.